All right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Tennis Fans podcast. This is Tuck.
This is Tri.
Today we'll probably keep it a little bit short and just maybe dig into a little bit about the rivalry. I guess the different rivalries in tennis, and the main one being Roger and Rafa. I think you have a little bit more knowledge on this sort of like history between them.
Yeah, I mean, dating back to 2001, 2002, when Roger really like bust onto the scene, into 2003 when he win his first Grand Slam Grand Slam title in Wimbledon. He doesn't really have like and he went through like a phase where I was just thinking about it the other day, that I've seen like Alcaraz do now to a lot of people. Like he literally, like you see like Alcaraz play recently,
Yeah.
like he just beat everyone, and it just he almost looks like unbeatable. And that was the phase where, like, I would say 2003, 2004, after Federer win like Wimbledon, he became like really dominant, and it looks like he was unbeatable. And there was no, but like when he stepped to the court, literally no one was able to beat him. But then 2004, I think like early 2004, when Nadal came onto the scene, when they played for the first time, he actually like beat Federer in Miami, I believe, at the Sony Ericsson Open. Back then is what they used to call it. And Nadal beat him on their first meeting. And then that's when you get kind of like a first hint of their rivalry. And then it established like all the way up until 2019, when they last play in Wimbledon, where Federer beat Nadal in 4 set. So it was a pretty long extended rivalry, and there was a lot of ups and downs between their rivalry. But I'm gonna take a look to see what's their final head to head. But yeah, they play a total of 40 times, and Nadal leads the head to head 24-16. So it's pretty crazy. It's definitely like Nadal has, like, the number itself here says that Nadal have a better head to head, but it's kind of difficult, because when you go through and you look at all of like their matches against one another, you see a period of time where Nadal was really dominating, and then a period of time where Roger was pretty dominating. So it's really kind of it's kind of difficult to say that Nadal is the better player, because there was a period of time where Roger came back and really figured out a way to play Nadal. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering like how that compares to like how the dynamic of the players are now, because like with Alcaraz, like he's very dominant right now, and like it almost seems like it's very one-sided whenever he does play somebody.
Yeah.
Like especially like in in Indian Wells, he didn't even drop a single set, and like but then I guess the difference between that and the era of like Roger and Rafa is that Roger was dominating for like a while, without any sort of like not like very big names kind of like contesting him, as opposed to kind of right now there's actually a decent amount of names that you can probably like put out there that's kind of like on the rise, and like they're also kind of like doing pretty good. But I guess compared to like with Alcaraz, he's kind of like different compared to a lot of the players right now on the field.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like, I wouldn't like what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, like, back then, the unfortunate part about like Federer dominated period is that it was not so long. Like he went on, like I mentioned earlier, when he was on the scene in 2001, 2002, there was a few player that he had problem with, but then he eventually like figured out how to play them, and he basically dominated them. Um, but then that period of time when he actually dominated them was like 2003, 2004. Like by the time 2005 come around, like Nadal is already like on the scene, and he started to play really good already.
He Roger
So
he
it's
didn't
only like 2 years essentially. I would say like 2, 3, 4, and 5 is like three solid year where you kind of see like, okay, this guy is pretty unbeatable. How, like, I'm a big Roger fan, but during that time period, I was like cheering against him because he was so unbeatable. But it was only 3 years, and then Nadal started to come in 2005 and 2006, and that's when you kind of see like the beginning of like their rivalry.
He played Sampras and stuff too, right? But like, do you know, like how many times he faced Sampras?
He faced Pete Sampras officially in an ATP match in Wimbledon 2001.
And that it was only once.
It was only once, and
But
it's pretty cool. The fact that they were able to, like, Sampras was kind of like fading away because 2001 was the year that he lost to Federer in the fourth round, and it went to 5 set, and Roger was able to play really well, and it kind of showed like both of them who. I think Sampras has, if I remember correctly, Sampras has 7 Wimbledon title, and Federer has 8. So like two of the best grass court player of all time facing each other in that one Wimbledon fourth round, 2001, with one player kind of fading away and one player is coming up, and it went 5 set. It was a pretty cool match. Yeah, Sampras has 14. I remember in 2009 when Roger beat Andy Roddick in Wimbledon 2009. That's when he broke the record of 14. I think he won, if I remember correctly, again, like Wimbledon 2019 when he won it. That was his 15th Grand Slam title, and that's when he broke Pete Sampras' record.
and Sampras was basically Roger's like kind of like idol in a way, right? I think.
Yeah,
if I remember
part of
correctly.
it. Sampras was one of his idol, but I think Federer's main idol was Stefan Edberg. He said it multiple times. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. I kind of want to correct myself a little bit earlier though. Like he was like Nadal. Well, Nadal jumped onto the scene more and like start playing really good tennis, and that's when you see like the consistency between the two of them dominating together. Not a period of Federer is dominating alone,
Yeah.
but Nadal and Federer both dominating. But Federer was still like killing all the other guys all the way up in 2007 to 2007. Like he was single-handedly beat everybody down except for Nadal. So he like his period of dominance was actually longer than just 2003, 4, 5, and 6. It went all the way up to 6 and 7 too. Yeah, but 2008 is when he's kind of a little bit. You can see like his decline a little bit. Federer. Yeah.
So compared to like a lot of compared to the other two guys, Rafa and Djokovic, there's like a period of time where like Roger just didn't win as consistently, right? As
Yeah.
compared to like Djokovic, he just like there's a period of time like especially up to the recent years is like he just won throughout like
Yeah.
every single year.
So like I would say for me, what marks the end of like the time of like Federer truly like at his peak and dominating was when he win Wimbledon 2012. After he beat Andy Murray in 4 set in Wimbledon's final 2012, it kind of declined a little bit. He's still like reaching semi-final and final of Grand Slam, but since then from that period all the way up until the year 2017,
Yeah.
he was pretty much like losing to Nadal and Djokovic consistently in like Grand Slams. Like
Right.
Djokovic was just dominating him in Grand Slam. Yeah.
But I guess the main rivalry has always been between Roger and Rafa, and it's almost like there's a period like in the beginning, towards the beginning it was
Yeah.
like Roger and Rafa, right? And then there's like a period of time where it's almost like Djokovic was kind of like playing catch up in a way, but then eventually he just became like completely like dominant, and then like I guess there's like sub rivalries between them.
Yeah, like to kind of say, well, like because if you bring Djokovic into the conversation, it's different now because between the three of them, there's a different flavor of rivalry.
Yeah.
The Nadal Federer rivalry is different than the Nadal Djokovic rivalry, and it's different than the Djokovic Federer rivalry. Like they all have like their record against one another that shows like different battle and how they play against one another, and then different dynamics too. How they talk about one another in on like the media and all that stuff. So it's different. I don't think I can say like Nadal versus Djokovic versus Federer are like the same rivalry. I just think it's a little bit different if you compare the three of them.
Do you think it's true that it's more people tend to prefer more of the rivalry between Roger and Rafa? I didn't really watch too much tennis back then, so I can't really speak for it, but um like in terms of like the rivalries between Roger and Rafa, is it more preferable just because like it's more entertaining between those two, or like because that's like the main rivalry that we've always heard people talk about?
That's a very good question. I would say for me, again, everybody is differently, but if I have to say a majority of us prefer a true rivalry, I would say it's probably is a love story between Nadal and Federer.
Because like I've always only heard like
Yeah,
like
because
Fadal or like
yeah,
yeah,
because
but
it's more like in a way, it's more it's more beautiful how the story is written out
yeah,
between the two of them. And Djokovic is kind of like he's kind of like the intruder almost.
he's kind of third
Yeah,
wheeling.
like third wheeling exactly.
Yeah.
Like he's coming in trying to like what is it? What is the term? He's trying to bring down a marriage essentially.
Yeah.
Like you know, looking back, like it should just a beautiful story, which should just be. And a lot of Djokovic fan is gonna hate me for saying this. It should just be Nadal and Federer because it's a very nice dominant and I'm pretty sure like if Djokovic is not around, Nadal and Federer would have more slam to that title. But
Yeah.
in a way, like you have to give Djokovic a lot of credit for being the person that willing to jump in and say, "Hey, I want to be part of the conversation. I want to be part of history as well." And
Yeah.
he's creating that additional to the rivalry.
I think what's really interesting about Djokovic, especially like I think I was watching Patrick. He made a video on it, and he was saying like, you know, a lot of the players are like, oh, I don't know if I can beat Roger. I don't know if I can beat Rafa. But then you know this other guy that came on the scene, you know, Djokovic. He's the one that's saying like he has like that confidence to say, I'm gonna beat these two, and I'm gonna be just as good as them.
Yeah.
I think that's very like admirable of definitely a player, and that's how he, you know, came to how he is today,
Yeah.
being completely dominant. You know, for the recent years.
Yeah. Like the one thing I want to add on top of that is like if you were looking at Nadal and Federer only back in their rivalry from like that span from I would say 2004 all the way up to like 2007 and 2009 when Djokovic started dominating, I probably would say that like people will be like, wow, this is the highest level tennis that we can see, like between the two best player. And then when Djokovic starting to like come into his own self and play like amazing, starting 2011 when he have like his individual battle with Nadal,
Yeah.
that's when you can see like holy moly, like this is the level of tennis that takes it above and beyond like the style of like Nadal and Federer against each other. So it's pretty it's an introduction to the era of like just like literally grinding out your opponent, and that's what Nadal and Djokovic did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's definitely like a very different dynamic because like when we watch Roger and Rafa, it's like they really like just duke it out.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
And then Djokovic come on, he did the exact same with like Nadal and Djokovic, and just showed that like, hey, my rivalry against Federer and my rivalry against Nadal is just as good as the rivalry between Federer and Nadal himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I guess now it's just to kind of transition to you know, maybe like the more newer generations of players here. Like I was just wondering like what your thoughts are, or like what your predictions are on like who might be, you know, the rivalries in the future.
right off the top of my head,
Yeah.
Alcaraz and Sinner.
I can see that. I
Like,
agree with it.
If you watch the U.S. Open, I think it's a quarterfinal between
Quarterfinal.
the two of them, it was probably like equal, if not better, to when Nadal and Djokovic play in the Australian Open final in 2012.
I think easily one of the most entertaining matches of the year.
Like literally that match. If anybody haven't had a chance to watch that match, like you know how sometimes you have to like watch highlights for like the good shots,
Yeah.
every single shot during that match, like I would say I can confidently sit here and say 85% of the rally in that match was like entertaining. And watching the entire match is like watching the highlight.
Yeah,
It's
and I
freaking
know like a lot of
unbelievable.
like those like Grand Slams they do like a 2 minute to 4 minute
Yeah.
type of highlights, and it doesn't really do that match justice at all because I went back to it, like I didn't get a chance to watch the whole match, but I watched like extended highlights like way after, and it was just incredible
Yeah.
because it was like 15-20 minutes of like just pure like crazy shots.
Yeah. That match right there, I would say it was, for me, it was the defining moment of either Alcaraz was going to win his first slam title or Sinner was going to win his first slam title, because Sinner was on the verge of winning that match. And then
Yeah.
all of a, and then he let Alcaraz come back and win it. But we, like, for those two next, whoever win that match was gonna be able to go through and beat the next two opponent easily and win the
Yeah,
title.
and
But
they're just such like great movers.
yeah,
Like they're very. It's just incredible. It was just a crazy match to look at.
yeah. So I would say Alcaraz and Sinner, no doubt in my mind, are gonna be like the next big rivalry.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other predictions so far. I mean, I would definitely like have the same people in mind as well.
Yeah,
Definitely Sinner and Alcaraz obviously just because like he's done so much,
yeah,
he's achieved so much in the past year and this year so far as well.
yeah. The for, like, and then the third guy that probably would come in to make it kind of like a triple threat, like Nadal, Federer,
Yeah.
and Djokovic, is Holger Rune, right?
That's what I was also
Yeah,
gonna say.
Rune, Alcaraz, Sinner is probably gonna be dominating.
I think it's almost a very like it's kind of a weirdly similar dynamic because like Sinner and Alcaraz they've played each other for in the juniors and stuff, and they're friends off court as well, and they're very friendly with each other. As opposed to I'm not too sure if I heard about like Holger Rune like playing and like any of them before before he kind of like broke out and won like the Paris Masters last year.
Are you saying like playing against Alcaraz?
Alcaraz or Sinner in the juniors?
I would say like the three of them play against each other in the junior.
Oh, they did.
They're like, so I saw a video of Alcaraz and Rune playing doubles together. Potentially they playing single as well, but I know, and I recently watched a video of Alcaraz play against Sinner, not in a junior, but in a challenger tournament,
Okay.
like in 2000, no, 2021 or something.
I think that was like I might have seen it. I think when Alcaraz was like probably like
Oh no, 2019, sorry.
it's like 15. He's
Yeah,
like 15, 16.
2019, the year that Sinner broke out and
Yeah.
win like the ATP Next Gen, and then that's the year that Alcaraz was like 14, 15, and they play each other in the challenger, and Alcaraz won that one.
Like a lot of the matches popped up my YouTube recommended recently
Yeah.
actually, when of Alcaraz playing like when he's 15 or something like that. Like the transformation that he made within like a few years is just kind of insane. Like
But-
from like I think like
Yeah,
14, like
tra-
13 to like
yeah.
15 or something like that.
Transformation of the body and the techniques, but like the fighting spirit for him, like if you watch those, it's always been there.
It's always been there.
Yeah.
I guess this leads to how would you compare like the mental strength of these like sort of next gen players to like the generation of like Roger and Rafa, because like like with things like the Hawkeye and the challenge system, it that can play a little bit of a pressure thing for a lot of the players.
The Hawkeye came into play. I remember. Oh man, I don't want to get it wrong. It's either 2006 or 2007 Wimbledon. If I have to take a guess, I'd probably say 2007 Wimbledon is when Hawkeye was first introduced to plays, and Federer was super against it. I remember like he was so pissed during that Wimbledon. Yes, okay, I remember now. 2007. But in terms of like Hawkeye live,
Yeah,
you mean like there's no line judge, right?
there's no line judge. Like like just completely getting rid of like the challenge system.
Yeah. I mean, like a majority of the player now, like they like a majority of the tournament now, they have like Hawkeye live.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's gonna how that would change, because like back then, you still have your challenge system and everything. So like yes, you can argue at a point in time Nadal and Federer doesn't have the challenge system, but then they start having it in 2007.
It's just like
Like
I
it
think
doesn't
like that.
change their mentality at all.
I just think that like it's just an added like sort of headache for a lot of the players, like, you know, having to deal with like, oh, I have a limited number of challenges, or else like I have this like lingering feeling that uh you know, the line judge is gonna call it like wrong or something like that, because like obviously with even matches up to this date, like there's still drama behind like, oh, like did the line judge call this one right, or did the umpire call this ball out, and or you know.
But then they can challenge it though. Like back
Yeah,
then, right?
yeah, but then like it's like a limited number of challenges. When you run out of challenges,
No, but
it's
then if you
over.
get, but then you don't remember. Like if you get it right, then you keep that challenge.
Yeah, but then, you know, like why have that sort of thing in the first place when like you're a tennis player already kind of deals with a whole bunch of stress?
Yeah, I guess the only thing that makes it different is like with the Hawkeye Live, there's no line judge, so you know like for sure it's out, it's out. You don't get challenge. You can request a replay, but you don't get like challenge anymore, and you know for sure it's out. So you have that comfort in the back of your mind. That's like when the ball land and you hear the sound, let's say out, you know like there's no argument. It's out.
It's just because I don't think that should be like a. It's not part of the tennis. Like in my personal opinion, like the challenging, like the challenge system is just not part of the game itself. Just because like now you're trying to like game against like the line judge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like,
I know you're trying to say that like when you go out there, you just focus on playing tennis. You don't want to play another different game in your mind.
yeah.
But then the problem is you can never like if we talk about like the challenge system itself, we should also talk about like the replay system, because even if you eliminate all like the line judge, there are plenty of other calls that require the person that sits on that high chair to make decision that you still have to play the game with that person. Right? Like there's many other stuff, not just the challenging system. So like it's hard to like eliminate the factor of like not having to go out there and worry about the line judge, or even like, well, no longer the line judge, but like the umpire making the wrong decision and they're not in your favor. The best way for me to like eliminate that whole entire thing is to, one, have the Hawkeye Live, and two, on top of Hawkeye Live, have video replay. Like that's the one thing that I feel like they don't have. That kind of like that kind of question that give me question. I'm curious to see like to hear what people on the comment section or like our audience have to say about it. But I for the life of me, I don't know why they don't have video replay.
I just don't understand. Like I feel like up to this date, like with a lot of other sports, right? Like they have like all these crazy technologies, but like compared to like tennis, like it just feels very like it feels very primitive.
I'll give you one example. Like you're not allowed to touch the net.
Yeah.
You run up there and you like the guy barely touched the net, and then you see like the line judge like this.
Yeah.
Right. Like why does that person needs to do that and make that call? Like that line judge has to do that, and then also be aware of the fact that has the ball bounced twice before the guy touches the net. Like what kind of human can like do that, right? Like that, like everybody, like they can be perfect.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying in that situation, why can't you have video replay?
Yeah. And I just like I think that's where like the very like gray area of tennis goes into play, and it's like it really like that in itself can be like a momentum change for a lot of players.
So like that's what I'm saying is like going back to your point about like the challenge system having an impact on the previous generation and their mentality. Like I'm saying, like if you're gonna automate something, automate and introduce technology fully. Don't like don't like
half effort it.
Half effort it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like the net thing, the double bounce thing.
Yeah.
Right? The double bounce thing is a very obvious one. And then a very complex one that I've seen is like happening so much that pisses a lot of player off is when they hit the ball, when the ball come to them and they're about to hit it, and then the line just yell out, or you have the line call yell out, and then the
like whether or not you play it or
before,
something like that. It's just very
that essentially is eliminate now actually with like the Hawkeye Live now, because if it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
There's gonna be no more correction from the umpire. So if it's out, it's out. But like, yeah, situation like touching the net, double bounce, those kind of thing. Like have a freaking video replay.
I just think that there's just like all the stuff in tennis right now, there's like such a gray area, and it's just like it feels very unreliable. And I feel like that's just like an extra layer of like stress for the player that has nothing to even like do with tennis sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, like they should be able to just focus on their tennis and focus on, like strategize against the opponent they're playing against, and not like, like against the actual court itself.
Yeah.
Like I think that's just stupid.
People is gonna say, "Oh, it's the tennis tradition." Tennis is a very traditional sport. They want to keep it old school. But for me, I just think, you have to introduce the replay system. I'm curious. Like I said this before. I'm curious to see what like people has to say about this aspect of it. But for me, I'm 100% with the replay. Like you have to introduce replay.
I think like, with technology and like other sports, again, like I feel like they can automate a whole bunch of the process, and like that just makes it so much more like efficient. And like, I mean, I guess there's like the added like entertainment value for viewers and stuff, with the whole drama, this and that. But I guess for me, like I really only, so like most of the time I only care about like the actual like match itself, like players like Kyrgios and stuff, with all the tantrums and stuff. It definitely can have added like entertainment value,
Yeah,
like, when it comes to that sort of
value.
stuff. And sure, like it does like draw in a lot of like more attention like with viewers and stuff. But I just think that a lot of things can be automated. And
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, Nick Kyrgios. Because if you have that automatic replay and you have automatic hotline, like what is he supposed to be pissed about? Right?
Yeah, I know.
And then it destroy like people come to watch the game to specifically get him, watch him get pissed, to smash racket, yell at the umpire, line judge. So like in a way, yeah, that's a good point, and I'm pretty sure some people will agree. Is like it kind of decrease the value of like entertainment in tennis.
I mean, like at that point, if everything is automated, I just feel like the only thing that can get a player like Kyrgios all pissed off is just hecklers, like with people in the crowd, because that's just like there's nothing you can realistically do about it, just because there's just so many people. But yeah, I mean, like I think like I can see both ways. It needs that sort of like, I guess, spice in order for it to draw in attention. But if we're talking purely about like the game itself, the technology part definitely needs some improvement.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess that wraps up this week's episode of the Tennis Fans Podcast. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, pretty short episode this week, but we'll be sure to have more fun topics, having more people than ourselves on a call to share about their experience.
And right now we're just trying to figure out a more consistent schedule in order to kind of post content more regularly, but hopefully we can get that sorted out pretty soon here.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.
Arigato. Sarang.